Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us for the first webinar of the Dawa Distance Learning Series. I'm Peggy Xie from the Dawa Marketing Department. I'm hoping everyone's staying healthy and safe during this uncertain time. For today's webinar, we will discuss our new thermal solution that enables continuous and non-invasive monitoring of human body temperature without personal contact. To give you a preview of future webinars in the series, on April 8th, we'll be covering DMSS, mobile MVRs, and the mobile center VMS. And also on April 22nd, we'll be discussing a security solution for the education vertical. On May 13th, we'll be scheduling to do a introduction of our IP video intercom kit. Today we have our presenter, Jennifer Hackenberg, who is our Senior Product Marketing Manager, and also Steve Welber. He is our Training Manager. The presentation will be about 15 minutes or so, and we will open it up to questions at the end. So for everyone in attendance at this live webinar here, you will all be entered into a drawing to win a $50 Amazon gift card. And this time we have 5 winners that will be drawn, and we will announce the winners in our follow-up email. In the email, we will also include instructions on where to find a recording of today's presentation on the dealer portal. Okay, and I'll have Jennifer start the presentation right now.
Okay, great. Peggy, thank you very much for your kind introduction. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today to talk about this new coronavirus and how thermal temperature measurement can help aid in the fight to contain COVID-19. So let's dig into the agenda. So first of all, during today's presentation, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the background and what prompted us to bring this new solution to market. We'll talk about the type of applications that the thermal is ideal for and go through a full system overview of the components required. We'll talk about your return on investment with this solution, also some case studies that we have done, and common questions and installation and setup. So let's get into it here. So let's briefly just start out talking about the new coronavirus and how it has affected all of us. So as you well know, it originated in Wuhan, China at the end of last year, where people were exposed to it while at a large seafood and animal market. So when it was initially identified, more than 700 people died in China within just a few weeks. And now that the virus has hit the US, all 50 states have reported cases with a total as of yesterday of over 54,000 and 337 deaths. Now worldwide, we're looking at approximately a little over 22,000 global deaths. So the origin of the virus is still unknown, but it's believed to have started from bats, possibly snakes, and now they're even confirming that pangolins are suspected as well. So the primary symptoms associated with COVID-19 are that of a fever, cough, and difficulty breathing from upper respiratory problems. Now, initially, to stop the spread, airports were doing the best that they could by screening passengers with handheld thermometers, looking for individuals with elevated temperatures so that they could quarantine them. Now, although using the handheld devices was a really great initiative in order to stop the spread, there are a number of challenges that are associated with using handheld devices. Now, obviously, they're very time consuming. It takes about 3 seconds to read each and every person's temperature. And they're also fairly unreliable. You're going to have to increase your manpower and have more staff brought in to continue to take temperatures. And they're also unsanitary. Plus, the person that's taking the temperatures are more at risk because they're not able to practice safe distance recommendations of 6 feet. Now, unlike thermometers, which only work with one person at a time in a close range, DAWA has a safer alternative, which is the thermal temperature measuring system, which is non-invasive, and it's going to keep your personnel safe so social distancing practices can be maintained. The system basically works by monitoring the temperature of multiple people at once. So no more long lines and having to be at close proximity to other people. It also, if it detects a fever, the system will automatically record and send an alert to security personnel. Now, the great thing about this system is that, as I mentioned, it can do multiple people at once. So it can do up to about 1,000 temperature readings per hour. So that's 3 times faster than using a handheld device, which again resulted in very long lines at airports such as Chicago O'Hare. And it's obviously better and safer for cross-contamination. So what happens is that if there is an alert, the system captures the person's identity. So it'll do a face capture and with the facial recognition, and then also the temperature of the individual, so that you can definitely react to the situation. So now I'd like to just show you a brief video on how the solution works and how accurate it is. So here we're going to see some different types of solutions. So somebody's going to be wearing a mask. We'll also see someone with a helmet, glasses, and a hat and drink. So this solution is really great because it's going to have the ability to still read somebody's temperature, even though they have something over their face. So you can switch it between Celsius and Fahrenheit, whatever you prefer. So here it's just showing all the temperatures, and now you're going to see a mask and a hat. So the person doesn't have to remove that mask or that hat. It's still going to read their temperature. Now this guy's face is completely covered, and even a helmet this girl's wearing, and it still has the ability to read the temperature. So this guy has a hot drink, and it's not picking up on the drink, but it's picking up on the face. And his whole bottom part is covered. This guy has glasses on and even a hat. So you don't have to make any alterations in asking people to remove anything like some of the other systems out there. So let's talk a little bit about the applications and where this solution can be best used. So thermal cameras, as you know, they've been used for decades, predominantly by law enforcement and military, basically because they have been very expensive, but also they use them because precise visibility and detecting heat. But now the technology is being deployed in the wake of the coronavirus in aiding and detecting people with elevated temperatures, which is one of the most common symptoms. Now, there's a lot of anxiety also surrounding the coronavirus, not just the fact that people are afraid of becoming sick and if they're going to be required to be in quarantine for 14 days, but also how businesses are going to stay afloat during this crisis. And the coronavirus pandemic has been financially devastating on the economy, and many have already experienced job layoffs or the closing of businesses altogether. And in fact, unemployment just hit an all-time high as of today. So with the thermal temperature solution, businesses can feel more at ease knowing that if an employee, a visitor, or a customer has a temperature, they're going to be getting an alert before that person is able to enter the premises and possibly infect other people. And additionally, the employees are going to feel much better and more confident, either, when they're at the workplace or possibly when they come back to work, after all of this, so that a safe work environment has been implemented. Now, although many businesses have posted signs asking for sick customers and employees to refrain from entering the premises, the reality is that people do ignore this. However, with the temperature solution, the camera automatically detects and sends an alert so that the proper responders can react to the situation. Now, another application that this is ideal for is for schools and education. So many of the schools have been temporarily closed, and therefore parents and even administrators are concerned if the kids are even going to be able to finish the school year. And so this is a really great time in order to get those projects started in the educational system. And for those schools that can afford to, deploy this type of a system and, have the eagerness to prevent, future viruses and to help slow the curve, this is a really, really great opportunity. So having this type of a solution in place for when the elementary schools or the colleges or universities reopen, it's going to help to alleviate a lot of anxieties, knowing that if a second wave does come or another outbreak occurs in a year or 2 years from now, that the tools will already be in place to help flatten that curve of possibly another pandemic. So ideally, you're going to want to install this solution in an indoors application, and it is ideally for either small or large scenes, and I'll tell you exactly what is required for setting it up as we go through. So this is the system overview we're going to cover next. And so we're going to talk about all of these different components that need to come together in order to make this solution work. So this, let's talk about the components that make up the cutting edge technology. And again, this could play a very crucial role in slowing the spread of COVID-19. So the main three devices that you're looking at for the solution is having an NVR with facial recognition. You're also going to need a hybrid thermal camera, as well as a black body device. So we'll talk about each one of these components in more detail. And with all of those components, you're going to have a very accurate, very safe, effective temperature measurement solution. It's going to allow you to do faster screening without personal contact. You're going to be able to measure multiple people at a time for much higher efficiency and being able to keep that social distancing. And you're going to get those alerts when there's abnormal results detected, and obviously the face identification so you can match it with the alarm. So the first component that you need is the camera, and this is a hybrid camera, and it has a dual lens. So you have a visible lens so you can see what's going on accurately, and then also the thermal lens. So that is going to read the actual temperature. So the thermal lens is a resolution of 300 by 400, and it's focus free, and it has a 13mm lens. As for the visible lens, you see there that you have the IR light, and this is 2 megapixel, and it has a lens of 8mm. Now, the visible portion of the camera also has the wide dynamic range, so 120 dB. So if you are pointing it, you know, in an application with lighting glares, it's going to be able to be useful in that type of a situation. Also, it is a true day-night visible lens camera. It is rated for IP67. Now, we recommend this solution to be utilized in an indoor setting. And if you do have to go outdoors, we recommend setting up the solution within a tent of some sort, because any type of wind or direct sunlight is going to skew your results. However, you can use this camera for other things and other applications if you decide that, you know, that you don't want to use the whole solution. So if you do end up using it in a different type of an application, it is IP67, so it can be installed outdoors. It is PoE, it's H.265/264, so it has that dual codec, and it has an SD card slot up to 256 gigabytes. And the great thing about this camera too is that it is ePoE. So if you're familiar with our ePoE technology, it's going to allow you for greater distances. And also it is going to allow you to install over coax as well as using it for traditional IP. So if you do have a coax system in place, you can definitely use this with our converters. So here's what's included with this camera. It's just your typical Allen wrench and your screws. It does come with instructions, and there's an image there of what the box looks like. Now, the second component that you're going to need is this black body. And this black body unit is what provides a constant, stable, and accurate temperature surface for continuous calibration of the sensor. And it can only be used with one thermal camera, so you can't use multiple thermal cameras with it. It's a 1-to-1 ratio, so you need this black body and one of the hybrid thermal cameras. And this black body is MSRP is about $6,000, and this is going to provide very the high accuracy. So there are other type of black body devices that are on the market, and at first glance they appear to be much less expensive. However, many of those are for industrial applications and not for human body temperature calibration. So it's important to use our black body box for this application, because it's going to give you much higher accuracy and better stability. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on as well. So here is the next piece of the solution that you need. So you need these tripods as well as the plate. So you're going to use one tripod and one plate for the thermal camera as well as the black body. And they have to be set up to a certain height, and we'll cover that a little bit later as well. So you have the thermal camera that's detecting the heat, and then on the other side here we have the black body, and that's providing the thermal camera with a temperature reference to compare against with the human body, and this requires calibration. So what's included with this is you have a power adapter with the black body, and then the instructions, the manuals are right here, and it just comes in a brown box. And over here you can see the back of it is showing the temperature measurement. Right there is your connector plate, and then here is your tripod. Now, a note here is that you could use any standard tripod That is possible. You just have to make sure you adhere to the correct height for installation. And so you should be able to use any tripod as well if you need to. So here's the setup recommendation. So what's great about this, and this is how it will look when you set it up, and it's portable. So you're easily going to be able to relocate it if the system does need to be moved. So, if maybe you have to go remote and go to a different location for some reason, it can easily be just portable to take to another location. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that the height is 6.5 feet here for the thermal camera, and then the black body, you're going to make sure that the height is 6 feet. Now your channel width for people walking, so the camera is facing the black body, and so the people are walking from this direction, and it can detect at up to almost 10 feet away. It will start being able to read the temperatures of the individuals walking. So they're walking toward the black body here, and at that point it is taking the temperature, and then obviously the camera is recording, and up to about 4.9 feet in channel width. So anything outside of that, it's not going to get a good temperature reading. And then these devices here, your tripods, they're going to need to be about 9 feet in distance apart. So when you are setting up the solution, there is some things that you should avoid, such as direct sunlight, any type of backlighting or reflection, anything with high temperature, it could skew your results. Also, any type of vibration, low lighting, humidity, strong airflow, or electromagnetic forces will all skew your results. So you want to make sure that you avoid those things. Also, you're going to want to avoid deploying in any areas that are going to cause any type of interference, like heaters, microwave ovens, radiators, that type of thing. So now the other component of this solution is your recorder. So this recorder is a 16 channel 1U. It has AI for facial recognition. So it has the ability to capture faces and recognize. So if you're deploying this system at a work facility where there are known, the people, obviously you can put in and register their faces into the system. And then if an employee comes through the line, comes through and it's alerted, you know which employee that it is. You could do that. Or it just will do face capture or human capture, where it's just taking the face and sending out the alert with the actual person's face of an unknown individual, as well as the temperature reading. So it's up to 16 channels that you can do perimeter protection. You can do up to 4 channels of face recognition. So the one channel obviously would need to be utilized for the hybrid thermal camera. And then you could add 3 additional normal cameras to also do facial recognition as well to the system. And what's great is that, this NVR can be used with standard security cameras as well. So you don't just have to use it just for the temperature, thermal system. You can connect other cameras to the NVR for the rest of your security needs. So it has up to 20 face databases with 100,000 face pictures in total, and the alarm output is capable for allowing for an external system to alarm when an over temperature is detected. So Steve is going to cover a little bit more on the NVR, but this is just a an overview on the devices that you need in order to get your system up and going. So this is what's included with the NVR. So all of the typical power adapter and other pieces and components that are needed. So again, this is EPOE. And I did forget to mention the camera is also EPOE. So both devices are EPOE. So you have a full EPOE solution. So if you're worried about going long distance transmission, or you already have an EPO system up and running, this is going to be compatible. Also, if you need to convert coax, you can use this. So here's a overview slide of everything that you need for the full solution. So right here's your temperature measurement devices. So again, you're going to need that black body. Again, it can only be used with one camera, and that's your EPOE camera here. Your power supply is sold separate, so you'll want to purchase either this one or this one. You have two different options here. Your storage device is a must, so you do have to have that facial recognition storage piece right here. A switch is optional if you do need it, and then also a display, a monitor is optional if you do need it, it's there. And then the tripod, unless you're going to source your own, you would need two of those. And then these connector plates, regardless of whether you're using your own or not, you do need these connector plates, so you would need two of those. So total altogether for MSRP, not including the switch or the display, is a little over $22,000. So let's talk about the ROI. So your return on investment. So as I mentioned before, it takes 3 seconds to do every individual's temperature, to measure it. And let's say that you have 5,000 people that are going through. It would take about 4.2 hours. So you have long lines, you're increasing your risk for contamination, and therefore there's less ability to do any type of social distancing. So that's the standard way with a forehead thermometer, but with Dawa's human temperature measurement solution, like I mentioned, you can do it 3 times faster. So instead, you can do 5,000 people in about 30 minutes, and with a very high accuracy of 0.3 degrees Celsius. And it has that ability to measure 3 people per second. So you're going to be able to have that ability, like I showed you in that video, is that it's going to read anybody, even if they're coming through with a mask or a helmet or they have glasses on, they're still going to be able to, you're still going to be able to get a very accurate reading. So let's look at the numbers. So I did a scenario here. Let's say that we're looking at 5,000, taking 5,000 people's temperature. And if you're using a manual thermometer, I put on here that, just prorating it. Let's just say that it's prorated at around $1 a day. Handheld thermometers for this type of an application can range, around $100, just depending on the type of thermometer that you're getting. But let's say you're doing it based on over a year's period. So let's just say $1 a day prorated. And then you have to pay your human temperature taker hourly wage. So somebody has to take those temperatures. So maybe we're estimating around 5 hours, pay them $15 an hour, $75. Also protective gear, let's just say on the low side, $2 per day. And that includes masks and gowns and gloves that you need to use. So per day, you're looking around $78 to get all these people through. So over a year's time, $28,000. Now, in comparison, using our thermal camera solution, as I mentioned, the MSRP is going to be around $22,000. If you add on the monitor, let's say you need that, $600 and some. Your installation maybe around $100, and then it averages out to being about $62 a day and $22,753 per year. So you can see the savings there by deploying a thermal camera solution in comparison to, taking manual temperature readings. And as a result, you're going to have reduced risk for cross-infection, no contact, quick screening, no long lines, the ability to be able to maintain social distancing, automatic early warning, saving manpower, and also you have the ability to do historical data. And Steve's going to talk about that a little bit more, but you can do a data analysis and go back historically. So this system is very flexible. The black body can be stored during the off season. So the thermal camera and the NVR can maybe be used for standard surveillance. So, not only is the flu, always going to be there, but every other year, just about, and we have about 7 of these corona type viruses now. And every other year there's some type of an outbreak. It went from SARS to, the swine in 2010, you have MERS, you have Ebola. Now you have the COVID-19. These are all coronaviruses. And so you will be, prepared for the next outbreak. But additionally, you can use at least the camera for standard security surveillance if you need to. Now, the visible light lens can be used for facial recognition, and as I mentioned, 3 additional cameras can be used for using them as just standard IP. And the EPOE solution is great because you can deploy again over long distance and coax cabling. So a lot of flexibility with the system. Here's just a real quick overview of some of the case studies of where it's been deployed. So railway stations, airports, so we have about, I think it's been deployed, we've already sold around 10,000 of these systems deployed all over the globe. So these are just a couple still shots of what you just saw in the video. Okay, so some common questions that we are asked. So FDA approval. It is not FDA approved, and the camera does not detect for COVID-19. So ultimately, only a doctor can determine whether somebody has a body temperature that reflects if they are suffering from COVID-19. So this is not a medical device, and it's not intended for use in the diagnosis, the cure, the mitigation, the treatment, or prevention of any disease. It's purely it's has the ability to alert you to people that may have a fever that could be potentially at risk of spreading the COVID-19. So it's used to screen people. So HIPAA. So this is a question that has come up, and as far as HIPAA, and does it pose anything there? And thermal technology has made it possible to use video surveillance without violating patient privacy or any type of HIPAA regulation. So as long as your thermal product does not individually identify a person, for example, showing the person's temperature or showing the individual person in its field of view, the temperature reading is not tied to any personal identifiable information. So like their name, their address, their social security number, their phone number, that type of thing. It does not violate any type of HIPAA regulations. Loaner gear. So because this is such high demand, we're not able to process any type of loaner gear for this solution at this time. And as far as returns, we are not able to do any type of returns. Now with the warranty, there is a 1-year warranty on the thermal camera and the black body reference temperature module. The NBR and any of the accessories will have your standard warranty. The lead time for this is 30 days. As far as service goes, Dahua has very highly trained technical consultants, and they are available and able to help you with your on-site services. So just reach out to us. As far as how we compete against our competitors, there's competitors that are coming out with comparative solutions. And I would just say that Dahua is very comparative or has better lead time. So if you need this quickly, we definitely can meet better lead times. Like I said, it's about 30 days. We do have higher accuracy. Be careful of that black body because that's what's really going to provide the high accuracy temperature reading. There are other black bodies out there, but you know, ours is very, very highly accurate. And the ability to detect temperature, even if the person's wearing a hat or a mask. Some of the other devices that I've seen in the market are not able to detect the temperature if the person's wearing a hat or a mask. Ours does do that. So that's just another layer that you need to consider. So these product or all of these pieces to the solution, they are available now for ordering. We do have, as I mentioned, 30-day lead time. We have a product web page up on our website, and it's going to give you the solution data sheet. So unlike some of our other products, we usually just do it based on each component. We've actually put together a solution data sheet. So if you forget everything that I told you today, you can just download the data sheet and it's going to have all of those components that you need. You also have this brochure that we put together. Again, it's going to have all of those components that you need right there. So it's going to make it easy for you to find out what you need. We also have just added this tab to the web page for videos. So you can go on there and play various videos on either setting it up or just an overview video. There's quite a few on there, and I believe we just added a couple more. Okay, so that concludes my portion of the presentation. I am now going to pass it over to Steve Wilbur, who is our training manager.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. As soon as you switch over the presentation, I'll go ahead and push my slides up.
Okay, go ahead and try it now.
Okay.
Okay, I can see your screen, Steve.
Okay, great. Let me,
Yeah, you just need to switch it.
okay, hopefully it'll be a full screen now.
No, it's not.
It's not, okay, let me. Okay, hopefully that should be correct.
Yep, very good, thank you.
Okay, great. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and just cover some of the information regarding installation and setup. So this is just going to be kind of an overview to give you kind of a sense as to you know, what the process is when you first set up the system. So before we go into the specifics, I'll just cover some frequently asked questions. Jennifer did address this, but others have asked, you know, can it be used outdoors and, you know, not exposed to the elements, but I suppose if you put it in a tent or something, but just be noted, it should be noted that wind and normal outside temperatures might change the human body surface temperature and possibly affect the accuracy. And the other question is the black body module required for operation? And you can think of the black body module as a reference temperature module, and it's used in the scientific community as an idealized physical body that absorbs all incident electromagnetic radiation. So it's a term that's used in the industry. Sometimes we refer to it as the reference temperature module. But in this application, it is recommended specifically for human body temperature measurement. So if you use it as the system as recommended, the accuracy is about plus or minus 0.5 degrees Fahrenheit. And without it, the accuracy drops to about 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Also, the technical support was going to be provided by our regional technical consultants. I would say that if you receive the system and you have some questions about it, contact those folks instead of technical support at this time. So here's kind of a synopsis as to the steps involving installation and setup. So the rough steps are listed in the table on the left-hand side. So the first thing you should do, and this is not only with this system, but for any of our cameras or NVRs, is you should check to make sure that it has the latest firmware. And I believe this is the process for this particular product line. If it changes, we'll make sure and let you know, but you should definitely check to find out if it's got the latest version of firmware in there, because there's updates and improvements that get pushed out all the time. So as Jennifer mentioned, for installation, you would have the thermal camera and the black body device is shown here in locations or numbered 1 and 2, and the distance is going to be about 3 meters apart. Now for positioning, the black body module should be placed within the field of view of the thermal camera off to one side. So if you see the item mark number 1 there, the black body is shown to the left-hand side, and then that leaves room so that you can later define the target area that's shown in area number 2. Now the black body device, as mentioned, it's really this reference temperature module, and this is really key to keeping the system accurate, because what this does is it provides a very stable and reliable temperature from which the thermal camera can compare against. Now, this device will require some calibration, and it's also a sensitive device to make sure you avoid mechanical shock and touching the front emitter area. Now, when you first install it and you're preparing to use it, you do need to power it on and let it preheat for about 20 minutes. Now, as delivered, the default working temperature is going to be about 40 degrees C, and that needs to be manually adjusted to 35 C. And you would do that by the program keys that are shown on the right-hand side in section number 3. Now, next, what you need to do is configure the thermal camera. So what you need to do is, go to a PC and using the web browser, directly connect to the web interface of the camera, and then under temperature global setup, probably the first thing you want to do is change the measurement units to Fahrenheit, which is shown here in the red box. Next, what you would need to do is go to the human temperature tab, and this is a video here that's showing you that it's drawing the rule. There was a rule drawn around the black box, and then now the rule is being shown for the target area where your subjects would be walking into. So the system is not going to report any temperature reporting except for objects within that defined box that you draw. It's really important too that during this calibration process that you specify the area where the black body module is, because that's the reference point. Next in the setup is that you would need to verify that the high temperature alarm is enabled, and that's in that first red box that you see there. And then you would specify what the high temperature threshold is. So here it's shown as being a 99.1. That's completely variable, so you can choose the temperature that you feel is right, in which you want to be alerted. Another interesting thing about the product, and very useful, is the fact that the camera has a white LED on the front of it, and it also has a speaker, so that you can optionally enable the white LED to flash, and also an audio alarm to alert when that over temperature condition exists. So that's optional, and then you would enable it and adjust it in that second red box. Now, as mentioned, the thermal camera is a dual head, so that does have the two sensors, so it's really kind of two cameras in one. And just note that when the camera is added or registered to the NVR, it'll add both channels automatically. So you would have, as shown in the red box there, that channel 1 or D1 will be the visible stream, and channel 2 is the thermal stream. So this does take up 2 channels on the NVR with this product. Now, as within the NVR UI, so you would take your, if you're standing in front of the NVR and making adjustments there, or doing it remotely through the web, the thermal camera under thermal alarm in the NVR, you need to set and verify the alarm type is human body temperature, and that's indicated in that first red box. And then secondly, you need to enable the high temperature alarm so that you can get alerts and do alarm recording. So that's in that second red box there. And I did a little bit of research in that. At least one source was that the CDC recommended that 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit is an effective warning sign for a fever condition that is likely with COVID-19 sufferers. So once again, you can change that to whatever you feel is appropriate for your installation. Now the next step is you need to test a live alarm, and this would be the interface that was from the NVR. So this is just kind of a quickie video that we did at the Irvine location. So this person here stood in front of the camera, and he kind of rubbed his hands together to simulate a high temperature condition, so that you can see on the right hand side there's one of the thumbnails, it's marked high temperature. So anyone that walks in front of that target area, their temperature is captured, their face is captured, and then it's produced on the right hand side. So this is one of the last steps that you do to verify that the live alarm is functioning properly, and then you should also test it with a high alarm condition. Another trick that can be done is that you can have your subject wear something like a baseball cap, and then maybe clip something metal like a binder clip to the front, and maybe heat it up with a hair dryer or something like that, just to make sure that to verify the system is detecting those high temperatures. And then the next step would be to test playback search. So this is another video clip. So this is showing the live preview, and this person heated up his hand before he entered, so that set off the temperature alarm. So next, you right click on the screen and you select Smart Search, and then select the time, channel, and type of alarm. And then the alarm report menu appears with thumbnails. And when you click on the thumbnail, it'll play back the clip. So now that process has already been done. And then now it shows a short pre-alarm segment that plays before the triggered event, which is the detection of over temperature. So that really is kind of a quick synopsis as to the installation and setup for the system. Just note that it is fairly portable, so you can redeploy that to different areas if as the conditions change and that sort of thing. So at this point, I think we'll go ahead to the Q&A portion here. So if you do have questions, please type it into the question section of your GoToWebinar interface there. And one of the questions or comments is that, yes, the MSRP prices were shown in US, but we do have a separate Canadian MSRP prices, and I believe that can be provided along with some of the other materials from today's webinar, and that'll be pushed out to all the registrants so that you can download or watch the webinar at a different time. There was asking if is there any USA-based installs. Not to my knowledge at this time. I know that this system was fast-tracked from China, and as Jennifer mentioned, it has been used in a lot of different locations worldwide, and this is really the launch of this product for this market. So I'm sure that we're going to have some US installations here very shortly. So the question is are we selling this direct to end users or through the dealer network only? Jennifer, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, so no, we don't sell direct to end users. We only sell through our dealers at this time. So this is only available for you guys that are registered dealers.
Okay, another question is can the black body be permanently mounted? That there was expensive gear and could get knocked over or perhaps stolen. And it certainly could be permanently mounted. We suggested possibly using the tripods for the purpose of, easy and quick setup and being able to move it around, but certainly it could be permanently mounted. So the other question is can you use 2 thermal cameras and then 1 black body? And I know that a question had been asked internally. Jennifer, do you know if anyone had come back with a definitive answer for that?
It could we don't recommend it. You could possibly do it, but you would have to be, they would basically have to be right on top of one another, potentially. So I think it just really depends on the scenario. And again, we have TCs that are able to help you with that. So if you would reach out to your rep and get a hold of the TC, they could definitely help determine whether it is possible or not. I think it could be possible in very very few situations though.
Yeah, in theory, you should be able to do it. I think the main issue would be you're going to be limited in placement between the 2 pathways where your subjects are going to be walking. Because as I mentioned, the black body device has to be off to the side of the view of the thermal camera. So presumably you could put the black body device in the center of 2 different lanes of pedestrian traffic, and then use 2 different thermal cameras and do it that way. Note that there's no physical connection from the black body to the system. It's just a heat emission source that's carefully calibrated. So anyway, we'll provide more advisement later when we get maybe some more complete answers. So question, do the kits come with a case to carry the equipment? If not, what size would we need? And as far as I know, that there's no case that's really provided. We'll have to figure out maybe some recommendations on maybe an equipment case that might be recommended.
Yeah, and just to reiterate there, Steve, is that all of these components are sold individually. So we're not actually selling it as an overall kit per se. So you know, for those of you who want to purchase the pieces separately, you have to kind of put them all together. We're not able to put, you know, one part number together for everything that's included. And if we did do that, that would be an opportunity to have a case. So that's kind of how it is right now.
Okay. Another question is, do the tripods have to be 9 feet apart, or is that the maximum? That's really the recommended distance that those two devices should be apart, the thermal camera and that black body device. Let's see here. Just taking, there's quite a few questions here, so we are kind of running out of time. I'll see if I can answer, we can answer a couple of more here, but what we'll try to do at the conclusion of the webinar is to, you know, answer your questions individually via email.
Yeah, we're pretty short on time. Steve, do you want to answer one more question?
Yeah, let's see here. Another thing to note is that, as you know, Jennifer mentioned, the back end, the AI NVR does support facial recognition. So although that's kind of, you know, if you use that, that could possibly be, you know, in violation of the HIPAA rules, you know, that's certainly an option that can be used. So using either the visible image stream from the thermal camera or any ONVIF camera, you can perform facial recognition. So you might have an application in a private facility, for example, that you want to test all of your employees that come in through the door for, you know, perhaps a fever. But using the facial recognition back end, you could actually also verify their identity, you know, create white lists and black lists. So that's possible to use in conjunction with the solution as what was described. But, you know, at a later time, if there's no, you know, need for doing temperature measurement, you can still utilize the facial recognition for other purposes. So just don't think of this as kind of a one-trick pony. This NVR is one of the newest ones that we have. It supports a wide variety of, you know, other video analytics, you know, rules that we have, which we didn't really cover here. But, you know, certainly this is a solution that can be used for quite a long time. So
Okay.
I think that's about it, the time that we have for questions, and I'll just turn it over to you, Peggy.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer and Steve, for the great lecture. And thank you again for joining us for today. Just want to remind you that we will send you a link with this recording of our presentation, and we will announce the 5 winners of the Amazon gift card. And I hope you guys stay safe and healthy, and we hope that you continue to join us twice a month for the DAWA Distance Learning Series. Check your email for any further information coming soon. And for those unanswered questions, we will answer via email. Thank you.